Happy Sunday from us here for Young Spirits. We are carrying on our Bible series while Madam eats the second breakfast. And we're looking at the book of Daniel today. What do you know about Daniel? We often think of Daniel and the lion's den. Does that ring any bells? You used to have a puzzle book of different stories through the Bible when you were little, and one of the pages was Daniel and the lion's den. Yeah, and that's a story we're all quite familiar with because lions, they make an impact on our brains, and we think about Daniel getting thrown into the lion's den and not getting eaten and coming out again, and God saved him by
The angels
stopping.
saved him.
Yes, so the angels stopped the lions' mouths, I think how it's worded. But there's a lot more to the book of Daniel than the lion's den. Daniel, okay, so backing up, we've spent a few books looking at the fall of Judah, of Jerusalem, of Israel. We've looked at, that was way back, wasn't it?
Oh.
I suppose I'm thinking about Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, these prophets that have been going, doom is coming, everything's going to get destroyed, you're all going to leave your homeland, get ready.
Why? Why would you say that to anyone?
To give them a chance to say sorry for their behaviour.
Yeah, but why would you say that to anyone?
To give them a chance to change their behaviour.
Still.
We've covered this. So in Daniel, we're not warning about it anymore, it's happened. The sun's in your eyes. We're not warning about it anymore, it's happened. And Daniel is a member of a royal family, or he's a noble, he's an important person from Israel. And he's been captured and he's been taken to Babylon by the Babylonians, who are the ones who took over and destroyed the armies. And now he's in exile, he's away from his home country. And because he's special, because he's important, because he's clever, the Babylonians don't want to waste all of his cleverness. So him and a lot of other people are going to be taught the Babylonian language, they're going to be taught literature, they're going to be included in the leading of Babylon.
I don't know why I'm eating a banana.
You're
I
hungry.
don't like bananas.
So Daniel starts off both being quite important and at least not being dead, but being a prisoner. That is still what he is. He's a prisoner and he's got to do what he's told. And he's got 3 years to do this training so that he can work for the king. In that time, King Nebuchadnezzar, who defeated Israel, who defeated the king of Judah, is having a few problems. She's wandered off for the bin. King Nebuchadnezzar is having a lot of problems because King Nebuchadnezzar has dreams.
Oh yeah, I remember.
He has dreams that he cannot understand. And we think about dreams as trying to tell us things now sometimes, but particularly in the time of which the Bible was written, dreams were hugely important. And if you could correctly, can you wait a minute? If you could correctly interpret dreams, you were an amazing human being that had access to very important gods, and it made you very important too. Well, King Nebuchadnezzar could not get any help for this dream. And more, and he made it super impossible for his magicians, for his astrologers, for his advisors, because he said, I'm not even going to tell you the dream. You've got to tell me the dream and then interpret it. And
what?
Yeah, that was their face. They went, what?
How is it?
They went, King, we love you, but that's impossible. Like, we'd love to help you, but you're going to have to tell us the dream first. And King Nebuchadnezzar had a bit of a tantrum and said, right, I'm getting you all killed because you're all useless.
What?
Well, he didn't just want to get the ones that were advising him right then killed. He wanted to kill all his advisors ever. And so because Daniel and his friends were included in that group of advisor trainees, the soldiers came for them. And Daniel, who was a clever man, said, calm down a minute, tell us what's happening. Before you go off and kill us, tell us why. Why is the king so upset So they told him, and he said, okay, just hold off. Don't kill us yet. Take me to the king, and I'll try and do my best, because I have a God that can help me understand things. And I know that our God, I'm not clever enough to know the king's dream, but God already does. And if God sees fit to tell me, I can save all the advisors from getting their heads chopped off. So that's what he did. He went to the king and he said, I'm here, king, not because, no, there's your phone, not because I'm particularly clever. Because he could have done. He could have said, hi, king, I'm really good. I'm really clever. I'm going to solve this problem for you. But he didn't. He said, it's not because I'm particularly clever or wise, but because I believe in a God who is. And God has told me your dream. And what Nebuchadnezzar's dream was a dream about this really strange statue made of different metals, from gold head down to, I've knocked my glasses, down to different strengths of metal all the way down. And at the feet, very, very fragile feet, like made of clay. And the dream was a prediction for future kingdoms and how strong future kingdoms would be later and later on. So
wait, is it going up or down?
Down. So King Nebuchadnezzar was the gold head. He said, your kingdom's strong, but later kingdoms are going to be less strong. And he made this prediction. And the king said, whoa, you're good. I'm keeping you. You can keep serving me.
What about the others?
Well, the others, he's got these friends, and they were renamed. So Daniel was his Israelite Jewish name, Hebrew name, and later on Daniel was called Belshazzar, I think, in Babylonian. Anyway, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were his friends, and they were their new names too. And they got given positions of leadership too. So we're still on King Nebuchadnezzar. So now Daniel and his friends. No, he saved them. As far as I've read it, his temper tantrum calmed down. But they all finished their training. They all went off and did amazing things. But have you heard of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego?
Okay, it was Shamrock.
Shamrock, yeah, that's different. That's a planet. So when we think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we think of the fiery furnace.
What's that?
Well, later on, Nebuchadnezzar has this problem, you see. He keeps wanting everybody to think he's wonderful. Okay? King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylon king. So he wanted everybody to be able to interpret his dreams for him by telling him his dreams, first of all, very demanding. Next, some people managed to persuade him to set up a gold statue of himself. And whenever music plays, everybody, no matter what they're doing, have to stop and worship the statue.
What?
Yeah, well, that was the face Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego pulled. And they went, we serve the living God. We don't bow down to your statue of gold. You're our king, and we serve you, but you're not our God. You don't get our hearts.
So then they died.
Close. So then, some men who were jealous of how well Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were jealous of how well they were doing and how important they were becoming. Because remember, they weren't Babylonians. They were foreigners doing really well in the king's court. And so they go to the king and they go, King, you know that statue? We know that some people aren't obeying. There are these three guys that aren't falling down and worshipping. And we think you should probably want to do something about that because they're disrespecting you. And the king goes, I'm furious. And he has another big tantrum. And he builds this massive furnace so hot to throw these three men into. So hot that the soldiers dragging the men to the furnace, the soldiers die.
What?
Because of the heat. Like proper tantrum. And the men are thrown in. But before they're thrown in, they say, King, you're right, we didn't bow down, and we're not going to bow down because we believe that our God can save us. But even if he doesn't, even if he chooses not to save us from the fiery furnace, we're still not going to bow down because you're not our God. So the king goes, bleh, and shoves them in the furnace. But then he's watching, and he goes, how many men did we throw in? And the advisors go, 3. And he goes, there's 4 in there. There's 4 men in there. And they're walking around like there's no problem. And the 4th one looks like an angel. So he goes, get the doors open, get them out, get them out, get them out. So they come out and they don't even smell of smoke. They've not been burnt. And the king goes, okay, I think your God might actually be quite important. I'm really sorry. And everybody must now worship. He doesn't do things by halves. Now everybody who doesn't worship their God is going to get killed. So it's very, very bossy about who you should worship. But at least this time, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego aren't going to get it. So this is the kind of man Nebuchadnezzar is. And then he has another dream. And this is the last dream we're told about that Nebuchadnezzar has. And this one Daniel comes to interpret. And Daniel is scared because this is not a nice dream. In this dream, the king dreams of a tree. And he dreams of this beautiful tree that provides shelter for lots and lots of people, and lots of birds and lots of animals. And then it's cut down. And only the stump of the tree is left.
I know what that means already.
What do you think that means already?
The houses are going to go and they're going to be invaded or something like that.
They're not going to be invaded. The tree is King Nebuchadnezzar. And Daniel says, I wish this dream wasn't about you, King. But it is. And you're going to get cut down because of your pride, because of your refusal to acknowledge.
You're going to die now, isn't it?
No. For 7 years, you're going to lose your mind.
Wow.
Everything about you that you think makes you wonderful and better than everybody else is going to be taken away from you. We've heard this before with Israel, haven't we? God saying, you think you're a bit special and you're starting to treat people badly because of that. And I'm going to remind you that I'm God and that any power you have has come from me as a gift. And until you can recognize that, King Nebuchadnezzar, you're going to be crawling on the ground eating grass like a cow.
What?
Because you're going to lose your mind. And for 7 years, until you look to heaven and say, God is God and I'm not it. That's how it's going to be. And King Nebuchadnezzar goes, okay, that sounds bad. But then he kind of forgets about it. And 1 year later, he's standing on his balcony. So he's had a long time to fix his attitude, hasn't he? He's had a year. He's on his balcony. What's he going to say?
He's going to fall or something?
He's going to boast.
Oh,
He's going to be on the balcony. He says, is this not the great Babylon I have built? As my great royal residence, by my might and my power, and for the glory of my majesty. And God goes, yeah, you went and did it. Your royal authority is going to be taken from you. You'll be driven away from people and you'll live with the wild animals.
What?
And 7 times will pass by for you until you acknowledge that the Most High Sovereign over all kingdoms on earth. And I'm reading the verse, and gives them to anyone he wishes. And that's what happened. And 7 years later, the king looks up to heaven and goes, God is God, and I'm not he. And then he's restored to power. His advisors come and find him, and he's more powerful than ever before. But after that, he honours God, and he doesn't get quite as cocky as he was before. So
why did you say but? Because but kind of means something bad.
But he remembers this time. And that's just King Nebuchadnezzar. So Daniel has been serving the kingdom of the Babylons all this time. And then Nebuchadnezzar's son, he serves his son. And Nebuchadnezzar's son is even worse than his dad in thinking that he's all that. And he shows off. Exactly, he shows off. And Daniel gets called in to interpret writing on the wall that comes when he's showing off at one of his parties. And it says, your days are numbered, mate, because you've not been respectful. And he dies that night. And because Darius, who ends up being the next king, kills him.
Why?
Because people do that when they want power. And so now Daniel is serving Darius, and Darius is the king of the lion's den. Except Darius is tricked into this. But you know how he's tricked into it? Because once again, people flatter him and whisper in his ears and say, you're the most important thing in the world. You're like a god. Anybody caught praying to anybody except you, throw them in the lion's den. And the king goes, that sounds like a great idea. I think I'm wonderful and people should pray to me. And Daniel goes, here we go again. But he keeps praying 3 times a day to his God, like he always does. And the advisors, they find him and they drag him to the king and they say, King, look, Daniel's broken your law. And the king cries.
What?
The king loves Daniel and he knows that Daniel is a good man. And his pride has sentenced that man to death. And there's nothing he can do about it. He's put his royal seal on the law. He can't take it away. So he puts Daniel in the lion's den and he stays up all night, not eating, not sleeping, worrying. And the next morning he gets up and he goes to the den and he goes, Daniel, has your God saved you? Please let your God have saved you. And Daniel goes, yeah, I'm all right. I'd like to come out now, please. But the lions haven't touched a hair of my head. So he goes through 3 kings. I think there's another one at the end as well, King Sirius, but we're not told as much about him. And I just think Daniel is this incredible person that all the way through has these amazing gifts and is very, very clever and is given a lot of power. And every single time, Francesca, he's completely different from the kings who are going, I'm really special.
I'm really special.
And Daniel's going, I could say that, but God, I can only do what I can do because God reveals mysteries to me. I can only do what I can do because God gives me wisdom. And you've got to remember who God is. Okay?
We're going to show the things now.
Yes, so as a little craft, hopefully you can show that. We're going to get a PDF to you, hopefully, that you can print out. And if you hold it up so that they can see the face on it, that way up, that's right. So we've got a lion, a little bit of paper craft here, and it's one that you open like that. Can you do that on there? There we go. And what I've done is I'm going to suggest 4 verses that we can put inside, and what I'd like, Francesca, is for you to tell me which part of the story the verses are about. So can you go through 4 times and we'll open up the 4th one?
1, 2,
do it on the
3,
thing. 1,
2, 3, 4.
Right, let's see how much of the story you can remember. So let's open it up. Okay. And those who walk in pride, he is able to humble. Chapter 4, verse 37. What part of the story is that? Fold it down again.
No idea.
When was the king humbled? What does humble even mean?
When you're nice to someone.
Yeah, okay, but it also being humble is being nice to other people, but it's being nice to other people because you're not showing off about yourself. And if somebody humbles you, they make you realize how not important you are. Okay? So when was King Nebuchadnezzar humbled? Can you remember the tree dream?
Oh.
God humbled him and said, you think you're all that because you're king. I'm going to take that away from you and humble you. Okay, let's try 2. Do it 2 times.
1, 2.
Oh, that's 3. Do it 3. That's it. Okay, I'm going to open this one.
Number
See what we got.
3.
There is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. Who says that in the story of Daniel? Daniel says that because he goes to the king and he reveals the dream to him. Okay, next one.
5 times?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, let's open number. Well, actually, it's not a number, this one. It's a different corner. I've put it on this corner. On here. Open that up. And I've put, but even if he doesn't, we want you to know, Your Majesty, that we will not serve your gods. Who's saying that?
The 3 people that get thrown into the thing.
Yeah, the 3 people that get thrown into the thing, the fiery furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They say, God can save us. But even if he doesn't, we're not going to serve your gods. Right, last one.
7.
Go on then, I do it 7 times.
6.
Hold it up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. Let
7.
go, because I can't open it up like that. Oh, that one. Done that one. Let's do this one. Those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens.
Daniel.
And that is written right at the end of the book of Daniel. That's chapter 12, verse 3. And that's all of the 4 that I've chosen to kind of sum up the story. So I might put together an image with those verses on there if you want to use them. Otherwise, you could put in 4 parts of the story that you particularly remember, 4 parts of the story you particularly like, 4 things that you really want to take away with you today. I know what I'm going to take away. You guess. Don't show off, I think. I'm going to take away don't show off. Remember that no matter how well I think I'm doing, I can celebrate that, but remember the God who helps me. He helps me when things are going badly, and he helps me when things are going well.
That's very helpful.
And that's it from us.
Bye.
Bye.